Well, hello and welcome back to our regular webinar series. We're back after the summer break, same format as before. However, if you are new to these sessions, then basically just to recap, it's a short update each month on the maths and English landscape within England. A lot of the time we'll be talking about operational stuff relating to Sitting Guilds qualifications, but we'll also sometimes stray beyond this into the wider arena and things that might be of interest if you're involved in delivering functional skills or our bite-sized maths and English qualifications. It's just me, Paul Senior, with you this month for the main segment of the session, although Catherine will be back with us for the November webinars. Just a quick bit of housekeeping before I go any further, particularly if you are listening to the live session. If you're having any technical issues, you might want to try logging out and then back in. Somehow, don't ask me why, that seems to work with GoToWebinar. Okay, I've turned off my video now as it can be a bit of a bandwidth killer. There is a slight change to the schedule for this year as we're now going to be running these live sessions twice each month, normally on the second Thursday at 10 AM and the fourth Wednesday at 4 PM. Once again, the content will be exactly the same for both of these sessions, so you only need to attend one of them. There'll usually be about 20 minutes worth of pre-prepared content and then a further 10 minutes or so for live questions. The question function is switched off for the moment, but do please hold your thoughts as it will go back on again after the main segment of this session. Now, if you're not able to make either of the live slots, you will be able to find a recording of the main segment on the Maths and English Resource Hub. As before, it'll normally be uploaded shortly after the second of the two live sessions have taken place. Before we move on, could I also please remind you about signing up for our email alerts. The alerts are the principal way in which we send out operational and other updates about our qualifications. So really important that you are signed up to get these, and especially to ensure that your preferences are up to date. Okay, very quick drum roll before we kick off this month's update, or the main part of it. Having talked about this for several months before the summer, last month we finally switched on the brand new version of OpenAssess, our platform for hosting sample on-screen functional skills tests. Indeed, OpenAssess is one of the reasons why we're only restarting this regular series of webinar updates this month, as we did run 3 special live webinar briefings during September that went through the functionality of the new OpenAssess platform. You can find a recording and the slides for this on our new OpenAssess landing page. There's a link to it on this slide. If you were familiar with the previous version of OpenAssess, there are a few changes to absorb, but there is quite a thorough user guide to help with this, and our Evolve support team, Evolve Support, all one word, at sittingguilds.com, can help with technical queries. Next, as we continue towards a hopefully more stable and inverted commas new normal pattern of delivering maths and English, let's just take stock of the current situation around assessment adaptations. The last opportunity to use the teacher assessed grades, the tag process for functional skills candidates, has now been and gone, and the normal assessment requirements do now apply in all cases. There are still, however, some adaptations in place, most notably the availability of remote invigilation for level 1 and level 2 exams. You may have seen that the temporary test at home arrangements we introduced last year have now been superseded by a fully fledged remote invigilation service. You can see the link to that on this slide if you'd like to know more about it. It's also still potentially possible to administer entry-level assessments remotely as long as candidates are supervised throughout. There is a new adaptation guidance document that sets out precisely what is and isn't permitted for this academic year. You can find it on the functional skills section of our COVID web pages. It's distinguishable from last year's document by its bright red cover. And whilst this isn't strictly speaking a COVID related adaptation, there's probably no harm in reiterating that speaking, listening and communicating may also take place remotely. We're no longer treating that as an adaptation, so the confirmation of this has now actually been incorporated into the main SLC guidance documents. So that's kind of tag and etc. dealt with. As we settle into the new academic year, we've also now launched a new series of practice sharing networks to support teachers, tutors and managers working with our Maths and English qualifications. Do look out for the phrase connect, share, network, including the wavy lines between each word. We've so far set up a number of networks covering various aspects of functional skills. We're certainly expecting lots of interest in the maths and the speaking and listening sessions, though to be clear, these are not intended to be a training session. They're much more facilitated sessions. There'll be either Catherine or myself running those, but the main purpose is to bring practitioners together to connect and share their ideas and experiences. So we're doing various functional skills sessions, but there are also a number of other networks covering the bite-sized qualifications, ESOL and employability. Details of all of those can be found on the resource hub. Another instance of getting things in place for the new academic year, you're probably aware that for the last few years we've published a set of Maths, English and ESOL funding guides intended to help explain the various rules and conditions that apply to each of our qualifications. We have just updated those documents for 2021-22, although in practice you'll see that there haven't been any big changes to the range of fundable qualifications, apart from the obvious one that the legacy functional skills qualifications have now closed completely. The documents are especially important for anybody looking to deliver any of the qualifications or units from our bite-sized, our 3847 Maths and English suite. The adult funding rules in particular for these are quite nuanced, and quite a lot of people miss out on the really crucial point that ESFA will also fund individual components of fundable qualifications. So in practice what that means is any unit that's in the rules of combination for our certificate sized qualifications can potentially also be funded as long as the relevant unit aim is quoted for funding purposes. And so there's absolutely no room for doubt about this. We have included, as we did last year, direct links in each case to the ESFA's Find a Learning Aim listing. You can see the documents and the link to them is on this slide. Lots of information giving this month you'll see, and so here's one more reminder. We have mentioned digital credentials, digital badges before, but here's a reminder that we now issue them as a matter of course to all functional skills candidates. Strictly speaking, they're not a replacement for their actual qualification certificate with the Ofqual logo, though they are a lot easier to share on social media and in email signatures and CVs. And unlike a certificate, an employer can quite easily click on the metadata to see details of the subject content the learner had to meet in the course of gaining this qualification. As I said, we do issue these to all functional skills candidates. The only proviso for this is that we do need their email address in order to do so. We have recently produced a how-to guide explaining how to add email addresses when registering candidates. There's a link to that on this slide. But another important point, often we'll find that learners have been issued a badge but they don't ultimately take it up, so it is also important to make your learners aware of this and encourage them to accept the badge and indeed share it. Part of the point of issuing this is enabling them to be able to do so more easily. Just one more update. Apologies, there is quite a few of them this month. I guess that's a consequence of the taking the summer off. A reminder that the Centre Analytics tool can be used to access candidate performance data for both on-screen and paper-delivered functional skills exams. The on-screen contains quite a lot more functionality, as it's possible to aggregate together the individual candidates' score reports and use this information to look for patterns and trends. But it is important not to lose sight of the fact that Centre Analytics can also now be used to look up raw marks and performance codes for candidates who've completed the paper-based tests. We are planning to run a special series of webinars later in the autumn that's going to look more closely at central analytics and especially how to make really good use of the data available from it. We're just finalising some of the details around this, so do look out for further details soon on the Resource Hub. So it wouldn't be the monthly webinars without some, in case you missed it, from the wider Maths, English and ESOL landscape within England. Firstly, and this is a topic that we've, I think, revisited a number of times in recent months, the requirement on level 2 apprentices to study towards an attempt assessment in Maths and English at level 2, even where the standard only requires achievement at level 1, is still suspended for now, although the latest from the DFE and ESFA is that it's due to end on the 31st of December. It has been extended, I think, on a number of occasions previously, but there is no word as yet about whether it's likely to be extended again. I think we are conscious, however, that the general sort of mood from government seems to be wanting to try and wind down some of the sort of COVID-specific measures, such as this one. So I think probably safe to prepare for it, possibly being reinstated from January. Another, in case you missed it, whilst we're still on the theme of apprenticeships, the Association of Employment and Learning Providers, AELP, is surveying its member organisations about the true cost of delivering functional skills, particularly in relation to its funding allocation. The different, somewhat less generous funding rate for functional skills when delivered as part of an apprenticeship when compared to the adult education budget has been certainly a source of contention for as long as I can remember. AELP is undoubtedly looking for evidence to use in its conversations with the new ministerial team at AELP. You'll have received, if you're signed up to get AELP's weekly countdown newsletter, a link to the survey there, and I know they've sent out a number of other email communications in recent days. So if you are an AELP member or your organisation is, do look out for that. And our final, in case you missed it this month, it's not really new news, but it might be worth a very quick reminder about the range of professional development support that's available from the Education and Training Foundation that has been developed specifically to support teachers of maths and English. If the pandemic has taught us all one thing, it's about the importance of collaborating and sharing experiences. It's one reason why we've ramped up the range of network we're going to be hosting over the coming months. But the ETF is also, for its own part, continuing to provide quite a significant range of support to the sector. Quite a lot of it's free and almost always it's useful. So you can see a link to it here. So getting towards the end of our sort of Q&A slot, I'm going to pass over now to give you a very quick couple of polls. So if you're listening to the recorded version of this webinar, these are the poll questions again, just so you have sight of them. If you are listening to the recording and you'd like to respond to us about any of those, you're very welcome to do so using the usual email address pre-employment@sittingguilds.com. If you are listening to the recording, this is the slot where we would normally be taking questions and answers. So I will at this point skip right to the end and thank you very much for your attention over the last few minutes listening to this. Hopefully you have found it useful. If you'd like to encourage other colleagues to sign up for the live sessions, the details for doing so are on the Maths and English Resource Hub. You can find the link to it by going to sittingguilds.com/Maths and English. Feel free to get in touch with us, likewise using the email address shown here. Hopefully we'll see you again next month. Bye for now.